So skill number 4, they dance with the system around them. So that's a funny little saying, right? What could that mean for you? For me, what it means is that if we try to always work with the individuals on an individual basis, we're missing a larger picture. The system here that you see are the different connections inside your organization. If you look at a team, even if you have like a team of 5, 6 people, that's a little system by itself, right? And what the system does is the system adapts to something. So for example, I went to see a client once, and I was an observer inside one of the meetings that the team was having. So as I'm observing their planning meeting, there's this one person, we'll call him Joe, because Joe's a nice generic name. Joe that day was on fire. I thought Joe was like the greatest leader on that team when I saw him, how he was acting during the day, right? And I didn't even say a word, I was just observing. So I talked with the team leader, the real team leader, we'll call him Bob. And Bob tells me, well, I don't know what was in Joe's cornflakes this morning, but Joe was really not Joe. I go, what do you mean he wasn't Joe? He says, Joe falls asleep in our team meetings. We actually have a team rule that says no sleeping in meetings, and we call it the Joe rule. I'm not kidding, by the way. I'm really not kidding. My point is that system adapted in some way. Something happened because I was looking at the system. Okay? Have any of you ever do some of you work with agile teams? Okay, so I see a few hands raised. Okay, so when you go see a daily scrum, when you go do a Gamba and you go see the daily scrum, do you think that sometimes your team is holding back because maybe you're there? Ever have that feeling? Excuse me? At the beginning. At the beginning, because we don't know. We're not used to this transparency. What does it mean if my boss sees me like this, right? It's kind of uncomfortable. What co-creative leaders do is they take a look at their organization and they go, oh, okay, so I have this team. And this is kind of the dynamics that happen inside this team. This is what they talk about. This is what happens between them. And look, there's this other team. And this other team, this is their set of beliefs. This is how they function. This is their dynamics. Now I have 2 teams. How do they interact? Right? So the beautiful thing with the system, I'm giving you a way to see your organization. Can you see it a little bit? Okay, now here's the crazy thing. It doesn't exist. But it's a nice point of reference. So once you're able to see the system, to see what's going on, okay? It's all a construct that's in your head, but it's a nice reference to talk to someone else, right? The interesting thing with the system is able to do things with us. The system can interact with us. One of the things that it does is if you just go sit around in the same area as your team, all of a sudden you're going to be plugged into what's the chatter inside the system. We just did a reorg. Does everyone believe in it? Or does everyone go, oh my God, why Mary? We'll see that. We'll have our ear to the ground. The coffee machine is another place where we can hear the system, right? The other thing about the system is that the system has a set of beliefs. And when I talk about beliefs, I think of one story in particular with the team that I worked with a few years ago. The GM told the team was in a panic, it wasn't going well. The GM looked at the situation and said, guys, take 2 more weeks, take a month. We're not in a rush, it's for us. We can wait. Do you know what the system did? The system had the belief it wasn't true. And hey, we're towards the end of the year, there's going to be end of year reviews soon. I think the last thing I want to do is to be late on this project. So what belief took over? Yes, you can take 2 more weeks if you want, because we're really not in a rush. And please, don't kill yourselves. Versus, I'm going to kill myself because I have my bonus at the end. That plays into this, right? So when you dance with the system and you start understanding the beliefs of the system, it makes it easier to be a leader inside the system. Sometimes you want to initiate a conversation, you're just injecting it. And then the system goes, oh, no, we can't do that. Okay, cool. But getting the system to talk about it, you can come back a month later, start the same conversation again, and maybe people are at a different place, right? Sometimes no means not yet. I'm not ready for it. I worked with some teams where when we started working together, there were some topics that were completely taboo. We could not talk about these problems because we would deny these problems. But once we've learned to talk to one another, once we've learned to address other issues, eventually this problem, 6 months, a year later, we're able to talk about it. We're able to discuss it now because we've injected it a few times in the system. We've spoken about it, maybe awkwardly, but at least you get it in there. The conversations, when you look at it as from a more systemic point of view, there's two things when you look at things from a systemic point of view. There's one thing that's around what impacts what and what are the influences. So sometimes when I work with teams and I figure, where do I stop coaching? Well, I look, what's the highest name up the food chain that I hear? And that's probably where I'm going to stop, the name that recurs the most. There's an impact there in the system. I have to go up to there and have some discussions. But I'll say, if I'm at a GM level and there's a VP above and I never hear the VP's name, the VP doesn't impact the system right now, right? Not openly, so I'm not going to try to coach there. So it's understanding the dynamics. Where do I need to work? Where do I need to put effort as a co-creative leader to help my group move forward? The other thing that's a pet peeve of mine when we talk about system thinking is that I mentioned the slide before, they build capacity on their teams, right? Sometimes when we look at teams from a systemic point of view, the one thing we forget to look at is what is the system capable of? So I'm going to use the example I used, talking about salary. Is the system capable of doing that? If it's not, maybe I need to tackle that a different way right now. Maybe there's some capacity I need to build before the team is able to do that. And that's the part that we forget. And as leaders, sometimes where we commit a little sin is where we go, my God, these people aren't good enough. Okay, but how are you teaching them? How are you building resilience? What is it that you see that they're missing? Work on that. There's value there. But as leaders, we forget that our role is also to teach. And that's why it's hard to be a co-creative leader as well. Because how do I put myself in teacher mode and be patient when I'm expected to deliver a result? And I want that result, and I need that result. Makes it hard to be patient. Makes it very hard.